Thank you very much for the introduction, Paul. As said, I'm Amy Cashman. I run the UK Insights division, but I have the pleasure today of representing our fantastic marketplace platform here at Kantar.
And I'm Munnawar Chishty, and I am the Global Vice President for Beauty at the No7 Beauty Company. We're going to be talking about DE&I, so I think it's really also important to know that I am exec sponsor of our Race, Equity and Cultural Heritage BRG, and my pronouns are she and her. And I'm really excited to talk to you about this topic, which I have a lot of personal passion for.
So work that we've done at Kantar with the Unstereotype Alliance has really shown us the power of brands being authentically involved in conversations around things like gender diversity and race relations, and that increasingly we see brands having that expected from them by consumers. So we have something at Kantar called the Global Sustainability Sector Index. And last year we saw 39% of people felt that brands had a role to play in those kind of conversations. And in the UK, that figure actually goes up to 58%. So you see it's even more on the mind of UK consumers. And I think what Munnawar and her team have done has really driven change in this area. So maybe should we just start at the beginning, really? And what was the first sort of call to action you guys had to start looking at these areas and how your brands could be involved?
Yeah. So we were already doing DE&I work, and I'm sure a lot of people in the room are doing DE&I work on our brands. And actually, we were feeling pretty good about what we were doing. And then the tragic killing of George Floyd happened, and our social media teams were asked some really tricky questions about what we were doing as our brand, what was our stance, etc. And quite frankly, we couldn't answer them. And we couldn't answer them because actually the DE&I principles that we'd laid down weren't really clear enough. And so as a collective team and a wider organisation, we were like, actually, we need to do better. We need to do better for our customers and consumers, and we also need to do better for our employees. So we set about working across 4 different areas. The first one, I'm just going to put that down because I'm going to put it. The first one is around brand strategy and how we make our brands strategically more inclusive. Secondly, around our product development and our portfolio. So are we really offering an inclusive range? Thirdly, around our communications and our assets. Are they inclusive beyond just having the right model in our ads? And then finally, what were we doing from a people and our agency partnership perspective? So those are 4 areas we chose to focus on.
And you know, it was a pretty fundamental re-examination of everything you were doing. Those kind of categories are pretty all-encompassing. How did that then start translating into action in terms of what you guys actually did differently?
Yeah, so I can talk about a few areas, but I'll just focus in on one for now, which is around product testing. So we have a research centre in Nottingham, which does a number of our product tests. And what's important about that is it really tells us whether our product actually will work on all skin types and deliver the benefits that we wanted. And we had a testing panel of around 50,000 people, and we were feeling pretty cool about that. We were like, wow, we've got 50,000 people, amazing. But because we were doing those 4 areas of focus, we chose to have a look at that and go deeper into that data and go, okay, so we've got 50,000 people. What is the makeup of that audience? And actually what we found is 81% of those people were white. And actually, if you go even deeper, specifically 3% were black. So what that means is if you're doing a study with around 100 people and you want to know, does this product deliver the benefits we're going to say that it delivers, actually only 3 people are black. And so only 3 people are telling you whether it's going to deliver. That, frankly, is not good enough. So our teams worked on a recruitment campaign, and we went out and we encouraged people to join from different ethnic backgrounds, and it was incredibly successful. We doubled our number of people on the panel, so we're up to 18,000, and all of our testing is now done against this broader group of consumers. Now, it's great that we've doubled, and it's great we're up to 18,000, but actually it's still not enough. So we're continuing to do more recruitment, because ideally what we'd like is equal representation across the core groups. And actually, if anybody here would like to join, I think
we've got an advert, haven't we? I think we're not missing a moment to get more people on your panel.
We would love for people to sign up, or if you know people in, say, the Nottingham area, then please do sign up, because there's still more work we'd like to do in this area. So that's just one tangible example.
Yeah, and I don't think it has actually moved on, but if you could just move on one slide, hopefully everyone would get to see the panel advert.
No, it's an ad.
No, if we could go back. Okay.
Never mind.
Never mind. We will show
It's
the
better.
advert
It's
momentarily.
actually better when things don't work.
Oh my gosh, look, we're getting all sorts of things now. Well, there you go. You
That's
should never
not even
ask to
ours.
show things, should you? Because you get the wrong thing. So, well, we'll come to your advert in a moment. So, you've already touched on this with the panel, but obviously what's so important on a journey like this is getting a wide range of inputs, isn't it? And having a diverse range of inputs. And I know we feel very privileged at using the Marketplace platform. That's been part of how you've done that. But, how has getting those different inputs and that insight helped you in the product development life cycle?
Yeah, it's been really critical because you can do a number of things and you don't really know whether what you're doing is right or working or resonating. So I'll give you an example. We wanted to relaunch our No7 cosmetics range. It's like really big in the market. And actually, we'd been working on it for 3 years, this relaunch, all focused on cosmetics powered by skincare expertise. So again, that's something we're feeling really good about. When we were looking critically at our portfolio, we understood that actually the shade range that we were offering on foundations, just so everybody understands in the audience, we're talking about colour cosmetics, which match your skin tone. It wasn't as broad as it should be to really cater for everyone out there. So we did work to understand what were the shade range spectrums we need to go after to be truly inclusive, and we ended up increasing the shade range by 120. So we now offer 480 different shade ranges across our portfolio, which is great. Part of that, though, was understanding whether that was a good match. So we worked with Kantar Marketplace to understand whether what we were offering worked. And we've done that across other areas. So currently we're working on menopause, for example, and we're testing those concepts with Kantar Marketplace to ensure that they are resonating. And what you were able to do for us is give us a really broad audience and ensure we had specific segments that could do that. And also ask very specific questions around what was working and what wasn't working. So that's just one example.
Yeah, and so that was what was happening on the product side of things. We moved to sort of telling people about it and the advertising side of things. I mean, we know from the work we've done with the Unstereotype Alliance, it's not just about, showing people from different backgrounds. It's got to feel authentic. It can't feel tokenistic. How did you approach that with your advertising? You had this great product range. How did you sort of look at it in your advertising?
Yeah, so we think of our advertising as being much. I'm wondering what's going to come up.
I know. What's coming? Hopefully they'll give us a moment for you to speak.
We think of it quite broadly, right? Because every touch point with the consumer for us is communication. So, for example, in stores, we have around 1,600 beauty advisors. They connect with our consumers daily. So as we're connecting with them, what they say and the service they offer needs to be able to resonate. So with them, for example, we put together a skin education training program because it was really important they understood both the physiology and the biology of skin, the different skin needs of different consumer groups. So we trained them on that. We worked with Manchester University, we worked with an esthetician, very hard to say, to ensure that what we were delivering was fit for purpose. And then we went a step further and we looked for external endorsement for that program. So we worked with a company called SIBTAC that gave us external accreditation and gave accreditation to each of our beauty advisors. So what that means now is if somebody goes into a store and they talk to one of our beauty advisors, they can talk from a really knowledgeable base about understanding every different type of skin tone and different skin concerns, and therefore they can offer a much more personalised experience. But equally, for them, they feel much more confident in the conversation they're happening. So that's one type. The other type is around our communications and the assets that we're delivering. And of course, we've done what probably a lot of people in the room have done. We've audited the talent that we have within our communications, and we've audited the messaging to ensure that it is authentically inclusive. But we've gone a step further as well. When we were doing this piece of work, we found out that about 56% of women didn't feel, 56% of non-white women, apologies, didn't feel that the beauty industry and brands were really talking to them and that they weren't authentically inclusive. And, as brands, we have an opportunity. We can reflect stereotypes, or we can use our platform to start changing the conversation around things. So, working with an incredible CMO at the time and an amazing CP&I partner who was really supportive, because I do think that's really important to have that support within the business. We actually used our platform to create a piece of content which talked to the beauty industry about some of the barriers that were there and that we weren't really inclusive. And we also, connected that into some of our product messages, because one of the products we were launching at the time did serve the needs of a broad range of consumers. So I do think it's really important to have that senior sponsorship and backing to do some of those brave things. So massive shout out to Christoph, who's CMO at the time.
And I think hopefully we can now show the advert, because it's a great example of all the things you're talking about.
Yeah, hopefully it's the right one. Yeah, it's not Domino's.
Yeah, we're not very knowledgeable about pizza apart from eating it, so I hope it isn't that. Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Now you see me. Now you don't.
Now you see me. Now you don't.
Now you see me. Now you don't.
We see you. That's why we designed our new No7 Pure Retinol range to work on all skin, to target uneven pigmentation, wrinkles, and boost radiance, with a night cream, eye cream, and concentrate that work even better together.
Only from No7.
So a couple of things I want to say about that. So the stories at the beginning actually was inspired by real incidents that happened that our consumers had talked to. The women in the ads were just street casting. They weren't models. And when you do something like this, you have to tread a little carefully, right? Because you could get it wrong. So we did test this. So we used Kantar Marketplace to test this. And we did some very specific questions to check, does this feel authentic? Does it resonate with you? Are you connecting? Is it patronizing? All of those kind of things. Because it can get a bit daunting in the space of DE&I, because you can worry, or one can worry, that you may say the wrong thing or perhaps not do the right thing. Do we have an authentic place to be really talking about this? So that's where research and input really did help us to ensure that what we were doing was resonating, which this particular piece of creative did.
Yeah. And I mean, you guys have achieved so much in a short space of time, really, when you look back at all the things you've put in place. What do you feel is next for you on the journey? What are the sort of things you guys at No7 are looking at?
So there's a few things next for us. So our journey has been about gender equality, it has been about race. There are so many more facets around DE&I to focus in on, whether that be sexual orientation, disability, age-related concerns, a whole host of issues. So, for example, we're doing some work now around the menopause. Women feel what we've learned, very invisible at that time. They don't feel there's the support out there. I think people like Davina have done an amazing job to start the conversation. But as brands, we also have a responsibility to support women in that, particularly if we say we're a brand about women and supporting women through difficult periods of their time. So we're looking at that. We're also looking at packaging, whether we should be putting Braille on our pack. We're looking at our online portal and whether we should be thinking about some forms of language support. So there's a whole bunch of things. I mean, to be honest, it sounds like, oh my gosh, we've got this all cracked and we know what we're doing. It's not the case at all. We've tried some stuff. We've stumbled and fallen and failed on some things, and we've had some success on others, and we are still very much at the early days of our journey, and there's still so much more that we want to do and should do. And I'd encourage everybody to just to really try, because as brands, and I think you heard earlier from the presentation, our roles in society are broader than just a transactional one-on-one product relationship. We actually have a role in, changing narratives, and consumers connect better with brands that are more purpose-driven. So we have a lot more work to do, a lot more.
And I think Paul mentioned in his opening address, how much that was a theme at Cannes, including Greenpeace, storming many parts of the conference and things like that as well. And it's just such a big part of what we all need to think about in the marketing industry. But if you think about all the different things you've done, Munnawar, what would you say is the bravest thing you guys have done from this
So one of the bravest, we've done a few, one of the bravest is on a brand called Soap and Glory. So Soap and Glory, for those of you who don't know, is a bath and body brand. It has really iconic imagery on its packaging. So that imagery happens to be 1950s vintage ladies, and they've got their legs on show and they're peeking behind a shower curtain, all stuff that when it launched was really irreverent and quirky, etc. But actually, in today's day, it feels inappropriate. It doesn't feel very inclusive. It's just not the right image we want to be sending out about women. But it's iconic, right? If you ask consumers about our packaging, they recognise our packaging from that. So as a business, and again, massive thanks to my CP&I partners and to CMO at the time, we chose to make a brave decision to remove those vintage ladies because we didn't think it was the right thing to do. And that required some difficult conversations internally. What helped is we worked with an amazing design agency that came up with some new designs that still had that irreverent 50s feel, but without, making women feel like objects of desire. And we worked again with companies like Kantar to research it, so we were ensuring that we were maintaining our core equity and our core values, and that was still coming through with the new design. And so we've actually now restaged and relaunched the whole of that brand with the new design, which feels much more inclusive and a brand that I can feel really proud of.
That's great. And I mean, we kind of all understand why it's the right thing to do, but what have you felt the commercial impact to be for the brands where you've kind of looked at these different areas and put things in place? Yeah,
so, D&I, people talk about engagement and people engagement, and that ultimately businesses that are more inclusive get better business results. The conversation around brands and brands performance isn't as advanced, but when we look at what we did, so I gave a few examples. So our No7 Cosmetics restage worked incredibly well for us. We are now the #1 foundation brand in the market. We have driven trial and penetration and share, which is fantastic. And I'm not saying that is solely down to the D&I work, but that was a core component of what we did. The retinol that you saw on the screen earlier, that is another one. We're actually the #1 retinol brand in the market. And again, I can't say, that's purely down to the D&I elements, but it's definitely a core component. So every time we've done it, we've definitely seen better business results. And if you think about it from a brand perspective, ultimately it's about who you're targeting, and are you excluding a group, or are you being truly inclusive? If you include the group, you've got a wider audience to go after, so better opportunity to drive penetration. So we've definitely seen the commercial results.
Fantastic, and that's the perfect combination at the end of the day, isn't it? I don't know whether there's time for some questions from the audience.
No time for questions.
No, I'm afraid not. But thank you very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.